God is like the sun.
God is like everything.
God is whatever you believe him to be.
God is like your own mind. You can make him whatever you want.
Well, he's a dude.
How do you describe God?
As a higher being, I guess. The maker, the creator.
God is the person that we should all try to live our lives by.
I don't think I have like a personal description of what God would be. As I said before, I think it could be different for every person, how they feel God, how God is depicted in their mind.
I think God is what you see him to be, and personally for me, it's more that your mind controls everything, so it's a piece of yourself.
Describe him. I don't know. I really don't know how to describe that.
The most powerful spirit. Knows all. He's everywhere. All those omnis, you know what I mean?
I describe him as like a savior, helper, a friend, a lover.
Caring, comforting, helpful. Any good word, that's God.
Yeah, savior, helper, lover, and powerful. A friend, a family member, and also as an advice giver.
Okay, Jack, it's your turn. Complete this sentence. God is like...
I'd have to say God is like the perfect best friend. He's someone you can tell anything to who'll like you no matter what and is just open and forgiving.
See, to me, God is like a father figure. I know it's typical, but I really can relate God to a lot about my father, and I can draw a lot of similarities, and it's just been really easy to relate to God in that sort of way.
For every person, there's probably a different way of imagining God.
How do we form this image of God?
And how does this image shape the people we are and the people we are to become?
That's what we'll be talking about today. What is your image of God? Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine.
And I'm Jack.
And this is Realfaith TV.
At the beginning of the show, we met some teens on the street who talked about their image of God.
We will hear from them again later in the show and also talk with our studio guests.
But first, let's meet our spotlight guest, Tony Melendez.
Born without arms, Tony Melendez learned to play the guitar with his toes.
And he is now using his musical gifts as a contemporary Christian singer and songwriter.
He spoke with us about his image of God.
You know, to me, he's still a little more like the Old Testament, just big, powerful, and, you know, I'm a nothing compared to him. You know, he's just that big. His power is just infinite. Well, it's been a few weeks, about a month or so now that the tsunami thing happened. Well, that flow of water just tore apart. I mean, not just cities, but countries. You know, a lot of countries reflected that. That's how big God is.
What is your physical image of God?
Physical image? Well, I guess it's kind of like the what we see on TV, you know, what we've seen in paintings and pictures. And, a bearded man with long hair, a rebel, you might say, because, you know, today's standards, you know, average, you know, we don't want the long hair and this and that on the guy and the beard and all that. Yes, you know, fits in some places, but, you know, on average, most moms want the, you know, nice cut hair. And but Jesus was a hippie, you know. That's kind of how I see him, kind of those long-haired man that just had a lot of wisdom. And people just followed him. He was like a magnet.
I like what he said about Jesus being a magnet and people just following him, you know, because that's so true. He just attracted all those followers, and everybody just gravitated toward him. And his image of God, it really seems to be pretty much everybody has the same type of image. I know myself, I pretty much agree with him, and I think most people have that image, like even from childhood, like carries on, you know. Let's talk with our studio guests and find out what their image of God is.
Let's meet them. They are Elias, Marissa, Matt, Anthony, Katie, and Jessica.
So what's your image of God, guys?
Well, my image of God is a lot like his. It's a guy in a white cloak. He just looks really clean. He has a beard, It's kind of like the very cliche look of God. That's pretty much what I have in my mind.
Yeah, we all have these images of God being like, you know, older man with like big, long white beard, but I actually don't really have like, when you say God, I really don't have like a physical image. I just think of him as just like a higher being. I really don't have like a physical, you know, a physical image of him.
Actually, sometimes when I think of God, I think of Morgan Freeman from Bruce Almighty. I don't know, it's some kind of, it just seems, I've seen that movie so many times, I love that movie, so sometimes when I'm thinking of God, I think of the way they pictured him in that movie. You know, just kind, old guy, you know.
I kind of have the same, like, kind of picture. Instead of just being, like, I don't know, more of a person, maybe like a cloud. And, like, when you pray to him or something, he's like a warm blanket kind of around you. And you feel the kindness and warmth that he has to share.
When I was 2, I went to Lebanon, and we went into this ancient historical museum. And I saw this picture on the wall, and it portrayed kind of like the typical Jesus look, and it kind of integrated it into what this artist thought God would look like, and it was kind of very Arab and very mysterious, so that's kind of how I look at him.
I kind of picture, like, I don't have one picture for God. I see him as, like, everything. Like, when you wake up and see, like, this great sun, you know, God is there. Or, like, you feel this nice breeze when you're sweating, you know, just that, you know, great feeling of relief. I think he's the cause of that, so.
Just the thing you needed.
Yeah.
I feel like God is just this bundle of intentions for you, all these good intentions, and all these giving you these choices, and hoping that you'll find the path that he set for you that will be the best. And look.
So where do these images come from?
Who or what has shaped our own images of God?
That's what we asked the teens on the street.
Let's check it out.
What or who do you think has shaped your image of God?
Mostly I've been going to church more often, and my mother has been telling me stories of like how to pray.
Probably, I don't know, myself, I guess, my friends maybe.
Yeah, I think my image of God is an image I've completely made myself.
My parents and church, because I do go to church more often.
The Bible. I think one friend that I had back when I was younger, she talked, I forget what she said to me, but it completely changed like everything I believed, and I saw things in a new way.
Like changed the way you think about God?
He's explained it more. He knows a lot more about the Bible than I do, and yeah, he's the one who pretty much changed everything.
Drugs did it for me. Drugs, and I had certain people who were in my life that definitely helped me out spiritually.
Do you think of God in positive terms or negative terms, and why?
Positive terms. I don't think that I've ever thought of a higher power as a negative. I've never been angry for something that happened in my life, so I wouldn't necessarily. So I just know it's not negative. I don't know if it's positive, but it's at least neutral.
I don't see it as either.
I believe him in positive terms because you get, like, outcome of your life be good.
I think in positive terms most of the time. Sometimes it's negative, because I just got into like faith and all that stuff. And before that I thought it was negative, because I just thought it was like, you know, oh, like, you're perfect, you know, like that. But no, now I think of positive.
I think of him in positive terms. Positive?
Definitely positive.
Positive. Most definitely positive.
I definitely think of him in positive terms. Scary sometimes, but it's positive.
I think God is positive because God forgives everyone, and God created everything and gives us everything we have.
What or who has shaped your image of God?
I think maybe movies, because when I was little I used to watch the 10 Commandments a lot, and I always pictured him as like a big voice, like shooting down like lightning and fire. So I think that kind of shaped my image of God, and just being like this huge, I don't know, like voice, like that just like told you everything, and I kind of like it like that.
Yeah, definitely like the media, and I know for a lot of little kids, children's books will usually show like an old man with a beard and everything, so, and that's the image that a lot of us have into like our teen years, the the whole God is an old man kind of thing.
I think it's pretty much shaped from what your parents tell you, or even your grandparents. Because I remember when I was little, my grandma told me, like God is very, he's a very spiritual and positive being, but she stuck out her big Italian finger and told me, he'll punish you if you do something bad. But so I always saw him as, like one of the kids said in the video, he's kind of neutral. Like he's very loving and forgiving, but at the same time he could be punishing. But like I never really saw it as much as punishing.
I think God, like our vision of God changes because like throughout the years we go through so many things. Like we have this one base of what we saw in a children's book maybe, and then like everything we go through has changed that. Like maybe there was a bad thing that kind of took away from what you thought of God, but then something so incredible happened that it just totally overcovered whatever had happened.
There was this cover on Time magazine that had a human face with a totally equal blend of all ethnicities, and I thought that would, if there was anything that could portray God being in some kind of a human form, I thought that must be it, because it was like the perfect harmony of all races, and that was nice.
So does anyone have like a negative image of God, or did you at some time in your life have a negative image?
Well, I think as kids, when you go to church and you hear about like, the occasional story about people getting sent to hell, you kind of sit there thinking like, oh my God, I better do what my mom and dad tell me, or else I'll go there. It's like, because there are some scary images in the Bible too. Like, the Book of Revelations is kind of unpleasant at times, but you get these negative images mostly out. Like I think as a kid, because I don't want to use the word gullible, but like you're open to more things, being like you're easily
impressionable.
Or like your mom says, like, God heard you say that. Now he's gonna do something bad. No, mommy, please. Like,
my uncle used to say God's gonna punish you or something like that. Yeah, so that's the only negative.
My mother was raised with somebody who would say, "Oh, don't do that. That would make baby Jesus cry." And
I think that's kind of like you have Old Testament God and New Testament God. And Old Testament God, he's the punishing one, the one who says you shall not.
Yeah.
Then the New Testament God is the one who says you shall do this, be loving, and he's forgiving and everything. And I think sometimes we'll get that Old Testament image, especially when we're younger, and like some parents will use it as like, almost like my mom used to say, when it came near Christmas time, she'd say, oh, that elf just ran away and saw you. He's going to go tell Santa Claus now. And then it's kind of like that, like, oh, God heard you say that. That's bad, you know what I mean? Like,
I like that image. I like the way.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, I had a negative image. I think it was when I was 10. I heard a song. It says, God controls you, and although like the message it was trying to send out, like it was trying to be a good message, but it just really scared me. Like I pictured God as this puppeteer, like controlling my life, and like that's not how I wanted to say in my life, So I had a really eerie image at that time.
Well, next, Tony Melendez can tell us how we can change the negative image of God through prayer.
Yeah, if you have a negative image of God, I think you have a negative image of yourself. You don't like something either about yourself or someone else. And somehow that's kind of the image of how you see God. He's horrible, he's ugly, he's this, he's that. Where he's not that. He's the one that could fix all that. So somehow if we could just erase that from our lives, and I think you could erase it by maybe turning to him, through prayer, through talking with other people about God. But I know God is, God is everywhere, and he can touch people. Just we have proof by the life of the saints. We can go to different saints and pull things out, and I think it's, what's his name, Saint Martin, San Martin, a black saint. He was known to be in two places at one time, and there's like proof. And how can you deny that when there's proof? In my heart, God is beautiful, God is big, God is wonderful, and he loves us all. One thing kind of special that as a Catholic, I've gotten to travel to other religions, and they've invited me to be part of their church services and prayer gatherings and youth gatherings. So I feel like I've seen like a church that's bigger than just the Catholic world. because it's the same God. They might not believe in Mary the way we believe in Mary, but they still believe in God. So I think I've seen like a whole church, a bigger church because of that.
Negative images of God can come from experiences we had as children. How do we recognize these false images and then try to heal them?
Well, I could say that for me and my brother, we lost our father on 9/11, and people could say, like, you know, from that experience, you could see God as like a negative because, you know, he's the one that let this happen and everything. But, you know, we think, like, we see it as he's not the one that let it happen. He's the like in people who were there helping out and cleaning up and everything.
Right. I know when my parents got divorced, I put a lot of blame on God in the beginning because my family was always very Catholic and we lived a very faith-filled life, and then all of a sudden I felt like our morals were just thrown out the window because of the circumstances. But after a little while, I realized that I shouldn't put the blame on God and that feelings change over time, and I actually grew from it and came out with a lot of positive things from it.
Well, whenever I am going through a tough time, to keep a negative image of God from coming into my life, I always think of a quote from St. Augustine, which goes something like, God only allows evil in the world because he's great enough and good enough to bring good out of the evil. So it's kind of like I can always find something good that God is bringing out of that. Like with 9/11, I mean, even with all those people dying, it was awful, but it brought people closer together and we became more unified as like a country and everything. So.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, and even if you have like some bad times where you're doubting God, like, and you have a negative feeling about him, you can go to like a mentor or something, and they can help you like overcome, like, well, God is there for you all the time and he'll help you through anything. So I think that's a good way.
Our image of God changes throughout our lives.
It's important to know that it's not God who changes.
We are the ones changing.
Each stage of life has its own experiences.
Joys and sorrows, triumphs and tragedies.
Sometimes we can find that the familiar image of God that we held during the previous stage in life fails to satisfy our new questions.
Stretching our earlier image of God is part of our spiritual growth.
Let's go back to our teens on the street and find out if their image of God has changed since they were children.
When I was a child, I had never even thought about anything. Like when I was younger, I didn't go to church, or I didn't go to any type of religious ceremony, so I didn't have an understanding of what most people's beliefs of it was. And now that I do, it's like I've just been more aware of thinking about it.
When I was little, I was brought up Catholic, and I was told to believe what the church said and what my parents said, but as I grew up, I stopped believing in what they said and sort of thought for myself, and I didn't really want to go in that direction.
When I was a child, I was never really I didn't really know what it was at all. I didn't know, like, my mom would bring me to church and okay, like I go to church and sit there. Yeah, I don't know what the heck they're talking about. But now it's like, I know it's real now. Like, I believe now, and every day, like, more and more, I just believe more. And like, it's changed since like a kid, because I never believed when I was a kid. I never knew what it was. Like, I would have believed if I knew what it was, but I didn't. So, but now I have more understanding.
You don't believe in him much as if you were a child, and then when you get older or mature, you believe in him as much.
As a child, I believed in God always, but I think now I understand his being.
When I was little, I was a Christian, and then I kind of went through more stuff in life. Once I hit high school, something hit me, actually, a drug experience that changed my whole perception on God. And now, I mean, when I was a little kid and I was a Christian, it's like, it's easy, you know what I mean? You just live life, you just got God who loves you, you know? But then it's like when you got struggles and you move on in life and you got things you actually got to deal with, then it's a different story. It's a little harder, but.
As younger, I didn't really believe in him, and I didn't really know if he was true or not. Now I definitely believe in him more, and I can understand that he is powerful and that he is true.
I think I've become more religious since I've gotten older, just because I've started to understand the Bible more and started to look into religion more.
When I was little, I never not believed in God, but I doubted him. But now I know, like, that he is powerful and that he is true. When I was a child, I just thought Jesus was a guy that walked on earth. I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know how comforting he could be or anything to do with him. So he's really grown in my life since I was little.
So, how has your image of God changed since you guys were children?
When I was younger, I had an image of God based off of a play Bible. It was a cartoon of like a man with a beard, you know, but it was a poorly drawn cartoon that always smiled. And, you know, it was so simple. But now I think of God as a more complex, almost like superhuman being, like a best friend who's always there, you know.
That's kind of like with me. When I was young, I thought of God as this distant figure in a throne, you know, kind of just telling you what to do from afar. But as I've matured, I've had more of a need for God, and I kind of almost got buddy-buddy with him, you know what I mean? Like had him right by my shoulder and everything. So it's definitely changed a lot.
Next, let's go back to our interview with Tony Melendez and find out how his image of God has changed since he was a child.
I don't know if it's changed that much. You know, I still see him long-haired. But the part that's changed is I also see him as a soft Jesus, where I know when I was younger, he was just huge and big. You know, I've said that already, that he's big, but I guess the part that's changed is he's an understanding Jesus. And that's what I didn't understand before. Before he was just huge and big and giant, but that understanding part that at any time, as long as I say, Lord, I need you, I want you, please be part of my life, he'll take us. You know, I need an example. And that image of how I portray Jesus or God in my life I need his strength, because he has a strength that's awesome. And you know, I just want to mirror sometimes his little traits, you know, being humble, being real. You know, prayer, like I said, is the conversation. You know, it's the day-to-day connection with my God. And I just think we need to just keep that constant. If we don't, we'll kind of just fall away from him. And you know, his image to me is wanting you to be verbal, connected with him every day. It's not just a one-day thing. It's not a yesterday thing. It's not like, well, 10 years ago I prayed. It's an everyday thing.
It's not like, you know, you go to church on Sunday and then that's it. That's the only God day. I mean, God wants to be a part of your life every single day and talk to you, and he just cares so much. And I think a lot of people don't realize that.
There's a line in a prayer kind of worship and praise song that I kind of wrote. It's not out, or, you know, you've probably never heard it because I just wrote it a few weeks ago. It says, you are my all, you are my everything. Everything that we see, God has created. You know, he might not have made a brick, but he made everything to make that brick.
Right.
So he is our everything. There are many possible images of who God is.
There isn't one right answer.
While it is true that we need images of God that we can relate to at the various stages of our lives,
we must be careful that we don't allow those images to define God.
None of our images of God can fully represent God.
Images of God are false to the extent that they differ from the true image of God revealed in Jesus.
John chapter 14, verse 9 says that whoever has seen Jesus has seen the Father.
How does this image of God that we have influence the kind of people we are, if it does?
That's what we asked the teens on the street.
Let's see what they had to say.
Do you think your image of God has influenced the kind of person you are and the choices you make?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, not at all. I think about a higher power, but I don't feel like I have to prove myself to it. So it's not on my conscience.
There's nothing that I have to prove to any higher being. It's all for myself.
Yeah, I guess, because you know right from wrong better, I guess. Reach your faith.
He has helped me become wiser and stronger person for who I am.
Because God is there, I guess. He just helps out.
It's keeping me under control.
A lot of times when my friends are doing bad things, I won't go with them, or just staying away from things I shouldn't. Sometimes.
I am more strong because I used to be like a very weak person and a lot of stuff used to hurt me, but now I'm more stronger now.
Do you think your image of God influences the kind of person you are?
Well, I think it's more the kind of person you are influences your image of God. Like if you're an angry guy, you're going to have an angry image of God. And I know myself, I'm an extroverted, like I try to be kind and loving to everyone and reach out to people, and that's my image of God, a kind, loving God who reaches out to people. And I really think it's who you are that determines your image of God, not really the opposite.
I understand that, but for me, I kind of tend to think of God as not mean, not overpowering, but just strict and fair. So I try to abide by that. Whereas if I thought that God was patient, I might try to get away with more stuff. So if he's strict, I can live up to, my personal standards.
As Christians, we try to learn from Jesus' relationship with God.
How can we develop an image of God that's more consistent with the image of God revealed by Jesus?
Pray the scriptures, especially the New Testament.
Jesus most fully revealed who God is, and the church continues to grow in its understanding to this day.
Immerse yourself in the images of God revealed in the life, ministry, death, and resurrection of Jesus.
Let difficulties and problems lead you to new insights about God and help you to confront the false images that are not consistent with Jesus' perfect revelation of God.
And finally, pray for the divine help to know God more deeply and more perfectly.
What's your image of God, and how has it shaped the person you are?
We want to know.
Contact us through our website.
The address is realfaithtv.com.
Or you can call us at 609-406-7402.
And one final thought. St. John tells us that the way of love is a sure pathway to knowing God more intimately.
He wrote, "Beloved, let us love one another, because love is of God.
Everyone who loves is begotten by God and knows God.
Whoever is without love does not know God, for God is love."
In this way, the love of God was revealed to us.
God sent his only Son into the world so that we might have life through him.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on
Real Faith TV. God bless.